As I mentioned before, we'll be working with milk. We'll also be using dish soap, food coloring, pepper to add a little spice, if you will, and we of course need a dish for the milk to be in and something to stir with. Now, what this experiment first you'll pour the milk into our dish here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some food coloring here. I'm using the colors pink and blue just because I imagine, using my knowledge of color theory and art, that what we get in the end will be a very gorgeous shade of purple. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to help visualize exactly what's happening with this experiment here. And last but not least, what I'm going to need is to add soap to this mixture here. Now we're going to use our observation skills. That means we're going to use our senses, primarily our eyes, to see what's going to happen when we dip the soap into the milk here. Now you may want to make a prediction. Maybe nothing will change. Maybe this will explode into my face. Or maybe, just maybe, we'll watch a really cool reaction happening. Without further ado. All right, looking good so far. As I imagined, I can see some of that pretty shade of purple that I like so much. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix it up and explain to you a little bit what you saw there. Now, milk has in it proteins and it also has fat in it. But milk primarily is water. Those proteins and those fats don't dissolve very well inside of the milk. And when we add the soap here, the soap pretty much separates all of those globules, or kind of bubbles almost, or balloons if you will, of fat and protein, and pushes them outward. That's what we saw with the food dye, as well as the pepper around the dish here. Now, I'm just going to mix it all together, just so I can see what final shade of purple comes out at the end. I had it a little more blue than I did the pink there, so it's more blue than I would have liked, but it's still a beautiful color. Now, the cool part about this is you can kind of apply it with maybe knowledge that you know about the human body. For instance, inside of our blood, which is primarily water and also plasma, we of course have fats, and we also have proteins. Those proteins are affected by things. For instance, the soap, because of its polarity, or kind of how it's charged, it didn't meld very well with the fats and the proteins. So, in our blood, we have something called pH, or acidity. Acidity affects the shape and the function of proteins. Something else that affects proteins is heat. So for instance, when you, of course, cook meat, it loses, of course, the blood in it, but it also changes to something that people find very delicious. But those proteins also lose their function. So heat, acidity, and polarity are things that affect proteins.